Bueno, espero que todos hayan tenido la oportunidad de...
I hope you had an opportunity to contact Fanny to get your per diems. And now we will move on to the next presentation on MIS best practices, a hemispheric approach. This presentation will be given by Mr. Frank Lam, the Technical Secretariat of Iomaing. Thank you all again. Before beginning my presentation, I would like to take advantage of this moment to share some housekeeping announcements. One is that these presentations on PowerPoint will be available to you on the Iomaing website. And to encourage the use of, or to encourage conservation efforts, we won't print them out. We are also taping these presentations so that our MIS colleagues can listen to them if they're interested. Finally, I'd like to inform you that at the end of each module, we will have a question and response session where we can all interact with the facilitators of this activity. I'm going to begin my presentation and share with you what we've called best MIS practices. And these MIS best practices they are a compilation of MIOA in 2006 based on its experience with 19 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. When we speak about MIS, FAO defines an MIS as a structured instrument for collecting, analyzing, and communicating information about markets and business or commerce. For this end, for the end user, the system should be designed to increase market transparency that we've spoken about in the previous presentations by the United States and Honduras, and allow for more informed production, more informed decisions and business decisions, production and business decisions that are part of the value chain. In this regards, MIOA, in trying to fulfill its objectives and mission, identified best practices in order to identify the different characteristics and methodologies of the systems that at that point in time were participating, directed at what we know to be the three main roles of MIS, which are data collection, data analysis, and dissemination of the information. In this regard, we can say that best practices can be defined as a set or subset of advisable procedures for the proper development and execution of an MIS in our countries. They are the ideal standards that we as an MIS are trying to achieve in our daily activities. For this purpose, we also elaborated what we refer to as a list of variables, a checklist that basically are variables that allow us to verify the behavior of these practices or the application of these practices. We will speak a little bit more about this later on. We use this checklist to learn about to learn if the conditions established by the MIS comply with the norms that we have set. These best practices, elaborated by MIO, are 24, divided into the three functions that I mentioned, 7 of which have to do with data collection, data for data analysis, and 10 for disclosing information or disseminating information. These best practices have a checklist also, corresponding checklist, which are the conditions that have to be verified for these best practices to be fulfilled. In this regards, there are 14 for data collection, 26 for data analysis, and 30 for dissemination of information. In stage 1, which has to do with data collection, best practice number 1 is that as a result of the work done, a best practice is when the MIS has an operations manual for collecting data. In other words, a written manual. Normally, we all know that when we work on these systems, that what isn't written doesn't exist, and it's fundamental, mainly for MISs that are now in the process of being formed, that there be an operations manual. This is key, and will allow us to be able to not only establish a methodology of foretaking for collecting data, but structuring and identifying the number of samples, the different hours, the materials or supplies, data sources. This is a checklist that is there a written manual, and is it used by reporters? That's number 1 in the checklist. And is the manual followed? Are there internal controls for ensuring that the manual is followed? SEMA, the MIS, must have market reporters that are recruited through a technical process and properly trained for their role. The checklist will refer to this as the following. Hiring policies for staff hiring policies. 2, are there personal training policies for any incoming staff? A third best practice has to do with the market reporters. Do they have the resources they need to carry out their work as part of a continuous improvement process that's accompanied by training and evaluation, as well as any adjustments made by the MIS with regards to this individual's job? We all know that an issue for any checklist is the budget of the MIS, or any limitations to the budget for providing this type of service, and a training program for the reporters, including seminars, workshops, or any other type of activity that's related to that. So number 1 is the annual system budget provides sufficient resources for regular operation. In the Dominican Republic, we will speak about this particularly, and we will have a training session to train market reporters, which we consider, since we consider that one of the key aspects of any MIS is the role of the reporter. Data collection refers to, or the stage 1 data collection best practice 4, the reporters have a list of qualified informants that provide information. The checklist mentions, or will state, that not 1, there is a list of market agents with ample market knowledge. 2, there is a basic list of informants that can be supplemented with random surveys in accordance with the manual. So you can ask more about this during our interaction session, Q&A session. Best practice 5, this is very important. I think that Mexico is going to mention it in further detail. There are norms regarding the validation of the information collected from sources other than the informants consulted or obtained from other informants. The checklist will refer to this as follows. Written norms, whether included in the manual or not, or routine practices adopted by the service. Validation of the information is key, since it allows us to safeguard the truth and veracity of the information that we collect. When we collect data, number 6 happens, best practice number 6. The MIS has carried out a study of the chain of the principal products, allowing it to define the data collection points and price levels: producer, wholesaler, retailer, international, etc. This is a very important aspect because there's more of a chain value that's it's now becoming a trend. So there's a more integrated vision that's part of this chain, and the MIS should also have this perspective, this comprehensive perspective. We've already seen in various countries that, as we stated beforehand, data collecting has to do with the different parts of this value chain. So the checklist will refer to this aspect as follows. I don't have time to go over all of them, but they're basically, there are one or more authorized studies, whether they were carried out as part of the MIS or not, that help guide the definition of the sampling or data collection points. Number 7, best practice 7, the MIS not only collects price information, but also supplements it with comments such as comments and information about volume and other market aspects, trends, situation analyses, etc. The MIS has to add value to the information. And price is important as a raw material, but it's also important to obtain other sources that complement the information. We spoke today, Mr. Solera mentioned that the information having to do with the weather is also key, how other markets behave that are influential markets for our markets. In many countries, we have a production that's directed at exports during certain seasons of the year, and many times the subproduct stays in the local market and dramatically influences the price fluctuation in that market. So it's very important for MIS to be able to complement their information, the data collected. During stage 2, which is the data analysis stage, the best practice is that the MIS has data processing manuals and instructions for the different tasks involved in adding value to the data. I'm not going to go into the details. You will get a copy of this presentation. Due to time restraints, I'm going to continue. But again, I just want to emphasize that each MIS should be able to, or should have, a manual that will allow us to standardize and homogenize all of our processes, especially with regards to data analysis and data collection and analysis. And best practice 9, the MIS keeps an updated list of products and varieties, units of weight and measurement based on the market's own records, in the interest of organizing and publishing the information. This has been a great challenge for us at MIOA at a hemispheric and regional level to be able to standardize the information. Given the information that we have for Central America, we're doing it specifically for fruits. We hope to be able to, in the Central region and the Dominican Republic, work a bit on updating the information. But it's important for the MIS, as you can see in the checklist, to have a document that will where you will record information about the products, weight measures, depending on the market, the variety, the presentation, the aspect of the product, and update it according to the market evolution. In data analysis, best practice 10, the MIS uses a computer program that allows it to manage the information in an orderly way and proves to be efficient in the way that the information is managed. There are there's so many computer systems out there, computer programs for this. Different international institutions have come to donate computer systems. So what's important here is, at a regional level, that when we have to share this information, when we migrate information, these systems should be as compatible as possible. And technologically, this is a challenge that we face. I wanted to mention that this is the main problem that we face in Central America and the Dominican Republic. Best practice 11 has to do with the MIS's capacity to carry out and update as well as maintain the computer program used for data processing, whether the program was purchased commercially or developed internally. In Ecuador's case, for example, it developed a system that was custom-made, kind of like a tailor-made suit, and it was developed by a local team, and it was directly responding. This computer system is directly responding to the needs of the MIS in Ecuador. The checklist states there are economic or human resources for maintaining and updating the computer program. The program allows modifications to be made, and different modules are included in the program to handle related information such as metric units, containers, and monetary units. Stage 2, best practice 12. The MIS uses a computer program that allows the information to be processed and freely shared in a standard data format, compatible with other computer applications. In this regards, what we're trying to achieve here is what we talked about is compatibility of our technology so that there'll be users within the MIS can use it, and other users as well. The central bank or another government ministry can have access to the information that we provide. Best practice 13. The MIS uses a computer program that allows easy input of data with minimal typos in managing the information. Unfortunately, today, Trinidad and Tobago isn't here, but in Trinidad and Tobago, they have been working with the system it's a bond system that they're directly gathering the information from the market, and the information is transmitted to the computer system in some way that reduces errors when input of information is done into the computer. But it's a very expensive system. Many countries have wanted to use this system, but there's great fear in some countries that the markets will, this equipment will be stolen, that the reporters' equipment will be stolen on site when they're out in the field, sorry. So as long as this equipment does not have any alarms, we will not be able to incorporate it out into the street. Another best practice identified is that the MIS uses a computer program that allows reports to be generated and modified for disseminating information in both print and electronic formats. The checklist will refer to 1, the computer program automatically generates standard reports or standardized reports, and 2, the computer program allows for changes or adjustments to the reports. In order to disseminate these market reports. The program should allow new reports to be created, or the MIS to be able to modify the report generation program. As in worksheet, in Excel, for example, we should be able to ask interactive questions, not only physically, but through the internet. For many countries, this is an important tool used to disseminate information. And let's move on to best practice 15. It's my last best practice. It has to do with disseminating the information. Best practices for the MIS to promote the system. It has a defined policy aimed at stimulating and promoting the dissemination of the information, expanding its field of action, and attracting more clients and end users. Definitely, as I stated at the beginning, the checklist would include this variable, checklists. There are documents, manuals, or instructions that define these policies, and customer service agents consult the instructions when incorporating end users or promote to expand the list of beneficiaries. Number 2, the MIS holds promotional and training events for end users and potential clients aimed at getting them to understand the bulletins, know how to interpret the information, and sign up as clients. So, in this manner, the information will be disseminated properly. Another aspect is the MIS is for the MIS to generate reports in a format that's user-friendly, easy to read, and is well organized. This is a challenge that we face because many times we want to send as much information as we have available, and the user receives an information overload and they don't know how to take advantage of the information provided. So we'll see later on that one of the best practice has been to classify the type of user in order to send orderly information that's customized to their needs. Let's practice 17. The MIS has a policy of regular distribution of reports to its market informants. We consider that the reporters are responsible parties that regularly distribute these bulletins. And in order to provide incentives and generate transparency is for the MIS to be able to share this information with their informants. Number 18, best practice 18, the MIS maintains an up-to-date registry of the end users to whom reports are sent. All of us know, and you have identified the MIS well, but it's important to remain updated, to keep abreast of new information and verify that the information that is being sent is received by the end users, and that there be an end user registry that is kept confidential to protect personal information. Another best practice 19, is that the MIS end user registry should be separately identified as to which end users are natural clients of the service and which have requested reports for other reasons. So we have users from the public sector, for example, and the private sector. Many MISs offer information to universities or other institutions, and it's important, or a good best practice that we found in the 19 countries, to have a registry that's a separate registry where these natural users or regular users are identified, operators, producers, business individuals, etc.
En este caso, la 20 tiene que ver con el CIMA usa medios de comunicación.
The MIS uses the appropriate media for the natural end users of service in order to ensure that they have effective access to reports. These would obviously depend on the country. Currently, many countries are using market information systems as a mechanism for distributing or disseminating information. Our colleague Bernabé Tapia from ODEPA, Chile, will speak tomorrow about the model that ODEPA is using to disseminate this information to users of their market information system. Best practice 21. The MIS has a website to aid in the dissemination of information. The website should not be of exclusive use. Many of us know that many small-scale, medium-scale farmers and producers do not have access to the internet, but it is a good practice for an MIS to have a website, because this is a window for users and current and potential users. Another important aspect of this is when we speak about the exchange of information with other countries. Many times a phone call, a fax, or an email is very difficult. But in this way, many people from different countries can have access, as is the case currently with the U.S., where many market information systems consult the information that is available over the web. Dissemination information practices that the MIS establishes links to complement price market information. This is a very important practice. In many cases, a price is not complete. We need additional information, and we have been making great emphasis on what we call market intelligence. So in addition to price, we supplement this information with other types of information, which is something that the MIS did not do in the past. But currently, based on the current needs of our users, we try not only to build capacity within the MIS, but also to have increasingly more access to supplementary information sources. Best practice 23. The MIS consults its natural end users as to the format and contents of the reports to ensure that their needs are being met. I believe that this two-way communication is very important. In some countries, we've carried out some activities. We have a monthly meeting. The MIS has a monthly meeting with its users to collect information and update the reports and the information that is being generated for their users. And the final best practice is the MIS evaluates or receives feedback as to the quality of the service it provides. We are service providers. We don't have any second chances to provide a service. We only have one single opportunity to do this. In this sense, contact with end users, or contact between users and the MIS, is critical. I would like to end my presentation by showing this diagram that I prepared. As you can see, here you can see the different roles that we have: data collection, data analysis, and data dissemination. But I would like to stress these 5 aspects which are critical and that we have discussed this morning. One is people. This is very hard work, and on Friday you will see that we will visit the market at 5 a.m. In some countries, data is being collected at noon, at 2 a.m., and we need to train and motivate our staff, the human resource. Second important component has to do with the infrastructure and the equipment. Unfortunately, at Iomaing, we cannot work on this area, but we've made some efforts through some other projects so that MIS at the local level can have capacity to look for this type of infrastructure. Part of the objectives of this workshop is to raise awareness in the management level on these three roles and how we can address the MIS management to carry out these roles properly. Another important aspect is institutional support. This is critical, and in some cases, this has been a very important factor. And it is a permanent challenge that we face at OIMA in order for the information system to have some value at the country level, at the institutional level. This is an effort that we all need to make. And as part of the technical secretariat, I would like to ask you that when you go back to your countries, you inform your authorities on these events so that authorities can have or know more about what we do and can value the market information concept. And finally, the relationship that we have not only with the users of this information but also with the providers of information. With this, I will end my presentation, and I hope to have your participation at the Q&A period this afternoon to further enrich this process. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Frank, por tu presentación.
Thank you, Frank, for your presentation. Now we will move on to the next presentation. Lead and Change, the Evolution of MIS, the Canadian Experience. This presentation will be given by Ms. Gayatri Shankaraman from InfoWord, Canada.
Ready to speak today and share with you the Canadian experience, especially because we have gone through an evolution, a big change in the way we do business in Canada with respect to market information. So I thought it might be very useful to share that information. We have had Dr. Martinez present, and he has given a lot of wonderful, useful information in his presentation. So did Mr. Long and Frank with the best practices. So I'm hoping that my presentation will underline the commonalities in having a good and effective market information system. So I want to put it all in context. In Canada, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea about the agriculture policy that we have. The current agricultural policy is called Growing Forward, and it builds upon the previous one, which was called the Agricultural Policy Framework. Every 5 years in Canada, we review our current agricultural policies to make it more pertinent to the current environment and to be more responsive to the changing times. So Growing Forward is basically, it's a commitment to the agricultural sector that is focused on achieving results. And it reflects inputs from across the sector, which means that whatever policy we frame is done after having intensive consultations with stakeholders, industry members, with the various provinces within Canada as well. And it delivers programs that are fairly simple, they're more effective, and the intent is to have programs that are responsive to the needs of producers. And the three strategic outcomes that have been identified from our agricultural policy is to build a competitive and an innovative sector that encourages a lot of innovation that moves with the changing times. It's also developing a sector that will also contribute to society's priorities, for example, global warming or using more energy efficient fuels such as biofuels, etc. And also it's a sector it is supporting a sector that is going to be proactive in managing risks. And we provide tools such as insurance and stabilization programs that helps producers manage their risks better and be more productive. And market information, the importance of market information in all of this, in every sector within agriculture, is to support all of these outcomes. Because without timely, accurate, reliable information, which Dr. Martinez also mentioned, it's not possible to be responsive to the changing times. Again, to underline what has already been said, why is market information important? It really helps industry make timely decisions, good business decisions. It increases the competitiveness of the sector. It's a global world right now. We are not just feeding our own countries and our own people. We are actually feeding we are importing, we're exporting, we are responding to the changing demographics within our own countries. So it's very, very important to be competitive in this environment. So information, timely information really helps with that. It helps with performance measurement, how well a sector is doing or how badly it's doing or where it needs attention. It helps investment decisions, and especially for us with the government, it helps us in developing great responsive policies and programs that are going to really help industry and support industry in a timely manner, especially in critical time-sensitive situations such as a disaster. We have something called a disaster relief agri-recovery program within Agriculture Canada. That program is built to respond to industry needs right away. For example, if there's a flood or a drought or an infestation of a pest and it leads to a quarantine or borders closing, it's very important to have information for that particular impacted industry in that region so that we can respond right away with assistance. So market information has many, many uses, and it's very vital to have a vibrant agriculture sector. I'm sure you can go through the presentation afterwards. I don't want to repeat everything, but we do have insurance programs in Canada for the agricultural sector. It is cost shared with the provinces, so we pay a percentage, the producers pay a percentage, and the provinces pay a percentage of the premiums. So it helps us with that. It helps us with the loan programs where we advance payments based on the potential sales at the end of the year. So there are a lot of things that it's very vital, and my group is always called upon to provide timely market information for such things. The way it has evolved over time within our group is that, as you know, horticulture in Canada, I don't know, it's defined differently in different places, I guess, to some extent. We cover fruits, vegetables, of which potatoes is a large sector, so it's considered slightly separate. We cover ornamentals such as flowers, potted plants, shrubs, honey, maple, ginseng, herbs, and spices. We started collecting market information in Canada back in the 1920s, and most of it was associated with activities that were conducted by the Canadian Food Inspection Agencies for their purposes for certification of food and food security. So they were doing this for a long time, but their primary mandate is food inspection. It's not data collection. So in 2008, they backed out of that activity, and it fell upon Agriculture Canada to do the whole data collection. And unfortunately, we did have to fill in a lot of gaps because all the respondents who were supplying information to the Canadian Food Inspection Agencies did not transfer their information to us. So we had a big challenge there, and we're still trying to fill the gaps. So I'm not saying that we have great information right now. But in March of 2010, last year, my group was formed because our department felt that we really needed to focus on this activity, on collecting market information, doing market analysis, and I started leading this group. So since then, the first thing we did was, as Dr. Martinez has said, people are very important. So I got together the team and we actually sat down together and put together a mission statement. What is the group going to do? What do you think is within our scope and what should we not do? And what are the activities we want to do to achieve that result? We do have the InfoHort system, which is the market information system, but we also wanted, information is useless if it's not translated into something. So we wanted to do analysis, we wanted to give value-added information, and also provide information for the entire value chain from the producer to the retailer. We wanted to provide a complete picture of the horticulture sector. So once we had our activities all lined up, we went forward with our various initiatives. So our section, based on the consultations and the teamwork that we put together, we have determined that we will be providing market data, analysis, and benchmarking studies for the agriculture and agri-food industry in Canada, as well as related stakeholders. So what we have two major tools that we use. One is the InfoHort system, which is the electronic data capture system that we have. In addition, I have a team that does analysis. Basically, we produce industry profiles, we produce commodity profiles, we look at horticulture or horticultural policies in various countries, and distribute it to our horticulture sector and the stakeholders in the country to help them make their business decisions. We also do sectoral analysis. For example, we have done one on the potato sector and the fruit sector as a whole. We are working on one for vegetables. And we also have an overview of the horticulture sector. If you want to have a look, I have brought them here. If you want to have a look at what we have in mind for these various analytical tools that we give to industry. So the InfoHort system that we have, it compiles and disseminates daily, weekly, and monthly reports on wholesale, FOB prices, products in storage, and crop news through our website. So the crop news is something that every province provides us a little summary of the crop conditions and the growing conditions in that province every few weeks. And we put it up on the web so producers across the country can have an idea of what the issues are in the other parts of the country, and maybe it helps them make business decisions. InfoHort itself, the system started in 1995, and it was a user-pay internet database. It was jointly developed by Statistics Canada, a consultant, as well as AAFC. But in the late 1990s, StatsCan withdrew from the participation, so it kind of is housed by us in Agriculture Canada. In 2003, we introduced some upgrades so that all the reports could be web-based, and wholesale price data entry could be done through the internet by the wholesalers directly. Now, the current version was launched in 2007 with all the historical data. This is an Oracle-based database, and what we are doing now is making a lot of improvements to make it more user-friendly and more useful to our stakeholders. So for the current status of InfoHort, we are adding modal prices, like most frequently. Right now we present the highs and lows, high prices and low prices. We also want to present what is the price that was mostly sold at a commodity, so that it's more useful to our users. We are also enhancing the ad hoc reporting so that it's more flexible. So we have a team of IT specialists who are working with us to enhance what we have, the type of reports we have, and type of ad hoc queries that users can do. And we're also working with industry to expand the data set we have so that we can have more commodities and improve the coverage. Which leads me to our challenge, to our publications. Is it publications that we're talking about? Yes. As I said, I have a sample of all the few of the publications that we are putting together. They have overviews of the entire industry. They have details of every industry or every commodity. We also have fact sheets that we give to our trade missions going to various countries. And for the future, we have apples, blueberries, ginseng, herbs and spices. All of that is coming up in this coming year. And we also have the qualitative. As Dr. Martinez said, it's very, very important to keep in mind that our analysis is not biased. It's also very important that it's value added. We provide the data, but we also provide industry intelligence. In Agriculture Canada, we have commodity experts who deal with specific commodities, so they do have intelligence that is not commonly known. So we try to add value to our reports by adding that information. And all of this is the first year we're doing it, so it's a lot of work, and just putting together formats on how we want to present it, and also consulting with industry to see what is useful to them, what are their needs, and how best can we serve them. So as for the challenges, market information challenges, innovation, as I said, looking forward, renewal opportunities and innovation is what everyone's looking into. So it's very, very important to have accurate market information, good economic policy information, and we are trying to provide that. Also, our market in Canada, they're very reluctant to share information because I think some of them are at least insecure about the use of the information. They think if they provide information and somebody else doesn't, then their data could be used to their disadvantage. So it's a lot of perception, it's a lot of work trying to educate them about the importance of market information, the usefulness of that, and to get them to look at it at a national level and not at a regional level. So we are taking a page out of the USDA's book. I've been in talks with Terry Long and Dr. Palmer on what's the best strategy to increase the coverage, because our coverage is not very good right now. And we are also in constant communication now with industry. We've had many consultations and on trying to identify their needs to see that what we provide is going to be useful for them. We are also trying to provide, right now what we don't have is retail information. So we're trying to see what we can do to get retail market information so that we can cover the entire value chain. Also, finding the right partners to get information. Right now, we're just approaching producers or producer associations in each province, but we have tried to kind of get into partnerships with various organizations, which I'll talk about shortly. And in this time of economic restraint, our budget, of course, has been cut quite drastically, so we have to try to do better with less. I don't know if we can do more with less, but we're trying to put forward a good quality product. Instead of identifying 10 to 15 different priorities, we've identified 3 or 4, and we're going to target those and try to do the best we can with those and achieve results. So lastly, the opportunities. As I said, building partnerships, it's a great opportunity, and we have already formed partnerships with the Canadian Horticulture Council, and we're trying to develop a strategy for getting more market information. We also have a partnership with the United Potato Growers to, again, strategize on what their needs are and how we can work together to fulfill those needs. As I said, it's not just a government initiative. It has to be a joint responsibility. Industry has to participate. Industry has to take some responsibility for it as well. So I'm hoping we're going in the right direction by developing these partnerships. And I'm hoping through this forum, through the MIOA, we can have collaborations, we can have open discussions or one-on-one discussions on our challenges and exchange notes on how we can find some solutions to developing good market information systems so that going forward, our data is comparable, our data is useful to everyone and not just within our own countries. So with this, I will end. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And you can ask me any questions after. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Gayatri.
Thank you, Gayatri. I hope I pronounced your name well. Thank you for your presentation, and now we will move on to our next presentation regarding the MIS in Ecuador. This presentation will be given by Mr. Victor Buccelli, Ecuador's MIS, a successful restructure.
Thank you very much. The title reflects the experience of the agricultural information system in Ecuador. I just wanted to apologize. The translation in English does not include, well, it does. This is something that I had thought about based on our experience, and I asked myself, oh, should I tell the entire experience? Because if I do, I think we run the risk of calculating my age. And so I limit myself to the last 15 years. I can say, however, that the first person who I met was someone that was very experienced in the topic of agricultural information, who is Fernando Palmer. So, having said that, he's a master, not only given his experience, but for everything he's taught us in Latin America. Just his mere presence at MRA and USDA is something that I also will refer to in my presentation. I would like to thank my previous, or my predecessors, the speakers who prepared you, the audience, in informing about the best practices that should be considered when one implements an information system. It's very important to remember what Terry mentioned about the key factors. I was very impressed with Canada's presentation as to why information is important. Many times we lose sight of that. We lose sight of what's obvious, and we don't admit to that. But there are many aspects that should be in writing that we don't consider. This reinforces the fact that information systems have to become a public policy, because if they don't, we will face its ruin in the long term. So that's what I want to focus my presentation on. Selling an information system as a product that should be part of a public policy, of a government public policy. Adolfo Martinez from FIA has told his version of an MIS with private funds, and I think that it's also valid. And it's a contribution. I'm going to begin with Ecuador's experience. Many of the countries in the region have experienced or have received funds from USAID or USAID. USAID has always seen agriculture as a good investment and has financed it in some countries. In Ecuador, during 1988 to 1995, we received financial support from USAID, and although we received significant aid, we did not receive, we only received limited support in establishing information or in receiving information about how to collect data. So we didn't consider it significant. After this experience, And we all had something in mind as to reinforcing the need to reinforce our information system. So Ecuador asked for a loan as a public debt from the World Bank. The World Bank acceded and financed the SICA project, which is the acronym refers to Information Systems and Censo Agricultural Systems. This operated from 1995 to 2003. Funds were from the World Bank, as I stated, and for the first time, we were able to implement an information system as part of the Ministry of Agriculture. We invested in training heavily, invested during this period $1.5 million in hiring a consultant comprised of Texas A&M. I understand that USAID was part of that training group during 4 years. It was a great experience, equivalent to a master's degree in agricultural economics. So we trained individuals that worked for the project and for the SICA project, but we also trained the Ministry of Agriculture in this topic. The results during that period, we had 900,000 hits a month, which was significant. Now, it might be minimal, but back then it meant a lot. And one of the indicators for success, success indicators, was this one, the number of hits. 7 years later, we discovered that the problems lay in institutionalizing the information system. So it stopped being it became a reality. We lost the entire information system we had so carefully set up. We turned to subjective methods for collecting data, and the structure was completely ruined. This leads me to remember that when there's a transition from a project financed by external funds whose salaries are more than the salaries at the public institution, a first step is that those who will adopt the information system in the future, from day one, we should ask them to work as a counterpart of the information system and not think that at the end that it's a project being developed. Implement the project and find the people that you will hire the people that will eventually work. And we did not do this until the end, and that was a serious mistake that we made, not hiring the people to work on it permanently soon enough. So when there's a transition from external funds to internal funds whose salaries are higher than our government employees, we have to try to, from day one, integrate the government employees into this project so as to appropriate it better. Some recipes for disaster, and this is what we underwent. Most of us that are here or who faced a transition from going to the sort of transition that I described is lack of funds. That's always the case in Latin America. When you approach authorities with the need to improve our information system, and we explain that collecting data is expensive, the government will have a defensive attitude. What's he coming up with next? And the fact that raising quality information is even more expensive, we tend to receive even more negative rebuttals. On the other hand, the in the last few years, we haven't really been used to dealing with. In the last few years, we have become used to dealing with statistics and figures, but this was not the case before. Especially regarding the need for updated information. So this is a situation that we faced: lack of funding, lack of a culture of statistics, and this would lead to a weak information system. So these are the factors that should be considered when selling your MIS to the authorities and requesting funds for the MIS. In addition, sometimes we forget that we are poor salespeople. We know that it's important, but we don't know how to transmit that importance. And we have to discover each of the different tips that are obvious, but once they're applied, we can realize that they can be important selling points. And it was said very well in a previous presentation. Afterwards, the Sigagro was developed, which is a geographic and agricultural information system. It was and is, because according to these statutes, it's not officially published yet. So this is an office that is below a subsecretariat called Technical Services. That's part of the Ministry of Agriculture. So Sigagro is the information system branch of the Ministry of Agriculture. Its objective is to generate and provide up-to-date, reliable, quality information about natural resources in a timely manner. What type of information does Sigagro handle in Ecuador? A structural one, which has to do with ground use, aptitude of ground, and hydrology or agroclimate. And we also have the current aspects, which have to do with prices. We send out reporters to the field as to what is occurring there, if there are pests or diseases, and how are they each affecting crops in the field. And finally, production forecasts or crops forecasts. I'm going to refer now to the structural aspect. I mentioned three aspects, and we at Sigagro have a national head office, which is a research branch, and then we also have agreements established that show our migration from an information system to a qualified information system. That should be part of the current government structure, and that requires more autonomy than what it currently has. We are part of a sub-secretariat of the Ministry of Agriculture. Remember, I mentioned that. We have two major agreements, SIGTMS, which deals with land registries, rural land registries. The scale is 1 to 5,000, and this has national coverage. This project, well, it's not a project, it's already being input. It's financed externally. It's about $260 million, of which out of all the variables that are researched, approximately, which are 17, we collaborate with 3 of them, which are those that you see there. We have 80 individuals on the team, who are hired for research purposes and collecting data for that purpose. We have an agreement with Cleveland, which is an institution belonging to the Army, and we have $8 million for this agreement. We're collecting multi-purpose geoinformation at a scale of 1 to 25,000, which covers an area of 120,000 square kilometers. We have many individuals who work with us on this second tier. Regarding our more current information, just wanted to let you know that through agreements with different planning organizations from the government and sub-ministries, we have the Production Coordination Ministry has invested in consultants and equipment and a technology platform that won a tender with ICA Ecuador. And in the private sector, we've signed agreements with government from the eastern side of the country, and MIOA has also been an important stakeholder in refining certain tools. Frank and Luis Fernando have been particularly helpful. They analyzed our system last year, and this was a great advancement, a great provision of MIOA, or contribution of MIOA to Ecuador. And with APHIS, we are currently signing an agreement for research project. So part of the success of this migration, systems migrations to a more innovative system, is this closely tied relationship among the private and public sector, or between the public and private sector, which have supported readily our efforts and promoted our national information system, agricultural information system, and they've provided the different governmental aspects which allow us to be in the following situation. Towards change. SIGAGRO in the past, plus an office that all ministries have, which is the computer division or informatics division, became the SINA, the National Agricultural Information System. This became the Ministry of Agriculture is the head of the SINA, and this system is managed by not the vice ministries. Each vice ministry has a sub-secretary. So we are jumping 3 or 4 command chains before the ministry. We definitely improved our status here. So what products were designed? We have a great GeoWeb or GeoPortal to publish the structural information acquired in the agricultural sector. We have maps, photographs that have been taken throughout the country. We have covered 60% of the country's areas with high submetric resolution photos, aerial photos. We have a website that shows updated current information. Perhaps you could click where it says website so we can take a look. Can you click on it? Are you connected to the internet? No. How about for the rest of the slides? Okay, very well. We can do this in a few more minutes when we connect to the internet. Finally, SMS. This is a topic that all of you are aware of. You've heard of it. What I can say is that perhaps with regards to pricing in Ecuador, it's the most effective way to transmit the information of the day. Ecuador is a 14 million inhabitant populated country. I don't think we reach 14 million, but we are very close. Our communications superintendency has 14 million active cell phones registered. So this is one person, one cell phone per capita. That's our average. And this is truly surprising to be out in the field and seeing any individual with a cell phone. So it's not a luxury tool, it's a tool for work. It's not meant precisely for speaking with their close relatives. It's now seen as a tool that's necessary for their day-to-day business. Let's click. Click on SMS, please.
Más abajo. Ya lo tenemos, ya está conectado. Y eso fue concebido.
This was a rupture in the lack of symmetry in our information. This MSS dealt with that. It was to break asymmetries in the information agricultural chain. And this was aimed at wholesalers and retailers. We're going to gather the information. There'll be another person in the storage side, which has not yet been chosen. We don't know if it will be in the production ministry or the agricultural ministry, but they will deal with messaging, and SMS will be our messaging system. So we have dairy, wheat, or dairy cereals, grains, chicken or poultry, and meat, which are part of the basic food supply of our country. If we add rice, potato, eggs, sugar, and vegetable oil, that's another 20%. And then the following products barely add 10%. So if we add this, we would cover 80% of the products that are consumed in the homes on average, for foods and beverages.
Bueno, solamente para graficar qué productos y en qué.
Here we can see the different markets and products in the markets. If we analyze agro-industries, so rice, wholesalers are twice a week, and warehouses at the border twice a week, and at different markets or livestock markets or auctions, it's twice a week. This is our reporting schedule. This is how we send information through our cell phone system, to the SMS system. The monthly price is sent out. Here we have a model for standard negotiation of costs. The producer pays the actual price for communicating information. Let's click to show you our website. Okay, we'll show you our website later when we're sure that we're connected. So let's close. This is how our National Agricultural Information System general management is coordinated. We have a coordinator and 4 offices. We have a research and development office, which collects the data out in the field. The second is the statistical processing and analysis department. And third, a geoportal and diffusion department, and informatics, which is the outsider. I would have preferred not to include informatics part of the structure. However, the reason is that we have a technological platform that is adequate, and we have people supporting our system that are hired by the ministry. So we have the informatics department as a 4th office. So someone has to, the first person obtains the information, the second analyzes the data, and the third person diffuses the information or discloses it. After a year of consultation or of dealing with a consultant, we're now in the testing phase of a project. This system that we've designed is organized to be, can be managed from the internet. Its management is designed for operation through the website. The information is entered and already includes some algorithms that are based on the price history, where oversight is executed. If the price is outside of a certain range, there will be an alert on this computer alert stating that the information has to be justified by the field reporter. So we have all processes in one single program or structure. In this way, if someone right now, for example, is gathering price information from a farmer and goes to any office or cafe internet, or an internet cafe in Ecuador or anywhere else in the world and wants to enter information, they can do so through our website. And they must go through a security check, though, to enter the website, and can enter the SMS database to send cell phone messages. So the intervention of individuals at the middle of the processes that generally exist for processing information are no longer going to exist. They're going to become obsolete. Everything's going to be based on statistical algorithms. So let me reach the end of my presentation. There are various products that are part of this system. At a producer level, we would deal with prices, production costs, status of crop status, input, credit, crop forecasts, and deal information. This information is already included in the GPS, is already considered when reporters go out with their GPS to report on prices. The data collector includes a model for state purchases for absorbing crops and auctions, livestock auctions. The third group is the agro-industrial area, purchase of raw material, sales prices for processed or finished goods or finished products, and prices or portion sales, and for wholesaler prices, our wholesaler prices, and then intermediate markets, commercial warehouses, and boundaries. For consumer, well, we don't do this on the consumer side. We take information from a NIC, but we are able to obtain the information to input in our database, which can be accessed easily. At an international level, quotes for the exchange rate, commodities, and external or foreign or import business import and export business, and fruits and vegetables as well as import, where we compare them with ours and see if we're at a disadvantage or not, or if if there's any feedback from the fertilizer sector. So that is my presentation regarding our MIS system in Ecuador. The budget that we have right now for what you've seen has been multiplied by 15. It's increased 15-fold. $54 million per year is our budget for this. Now we have 80 field researchers, newly hired, that have an average salary of $1,100 per month. And at an analytical level, we have 8 individuals, and in dissemination, there's another group of 8. So we have an information system that is stronger out in the field, as it should be. 80, 90 individuals, and about 20 individuals in-house performing analysis and dissemination duties. Please feel free to ask me any questions later on.
Gracias, Víctor, por tu presentación.
Thank you, Victor, for your presentation. It was truly interesting to see how Ecuador restructured its information system and how it received support from the government, and with the close ties it established for technical assistance purposes with MAIO. So we are on time with our agenda. We finished a bit earlier. We can't go to lunch just yet. Lunch is scheduled for 1 p.m. So let's move on to the question and answer session. This session is directed at Dr. Martinez's presentations, management and support of MIS, to the support to Frank Lamb's presentation on best practices of MIS, best MIS practices, Gayatri, hemispheric strategies, and the evolution of MIS in Canada, and Victor Vitelli from Ecuador on the restructuring of the MIS at Ecuador. So we open the floor to questions. If you have, remember, the floor is open for questions. Anyone who would like to ask a question, just turn your badge or the identification card, and we will put you in our queue.
And I just wanted you to tell us a little more about the process that it took you guys to institutionalize the system in the government in Ecuador. A little bit more detail, some of the challenges and some of the doors you touched, that type of thing.
That's a good question, actually. It's not the time to complain, but we do have some complaints, and during those periods of transition, there are some difficulties in our countries when we try to knock on the doors of the Ministry of Finance to get funds to invest in the market information system. Where did we find the most serious problem in Ecuador for institutionalizing the system? We went from using funds from the public banks, such as the World Bank, to using the government structure in order to consolidate the information system using expensive resources. And we had a government structure. The main problem was with salaries. My salary was twice as much as the salary of the Ministry of Agriculture back then. And this was about 20 times as much as the salary of a technician in agricultural and an agronomist that was helping us to collect data. I'm not saying that we had a very high salary, but I can say that their salary was very low. We don't have a difference anymore, and so there's not, the people are not so, are more willing to cooperate. I don't know if you understand the term of permanent staff or hired staff. Now there is a minimum difference in the salaries. There might be a 30 to 40% difference at the most, maybe even less. It's not 10 times as higher. So there's a lot of envy. Some people, when they see these kinds of things, are unwilling to cooperate. And then they say things like, well, you make 15 times as much the money I make, so you have to go to work 15 times as much as me. So that was a very important factor in the relations between the permanent staff and the hired staff. Now life has become much easier. First, because there's not that big, much of a difference in salaries. And second, because the central government is now making more demands, and this has helped strengthen our system. And consolidate our system. And the people are looking at the results or the things we have accomplished at the parochial level, the territorial level, the administrative units. Why? Because in order to get resources, to request resources to some government organizations, they tell us, yes, but you have to bring your programs and base your programs on reliable information. So we're closely coordinating with the central governments. I don't know how this will translate into English, but they have given some guidelines as to how to request resources to the government for the information system. All the people that have been hired, the 80 people that have been hired, become permanent staff within a year. And that is the commitment that we made when we changed the general coordination of the information system. This year we will evaluate these staff, and after this year they will become permanent staff. This is to ensure continuity. This is a very large investment. Frank or Luis Fernando, I don't know if I have answered your question. Thank you. Question for Victor. When they become permanent staff, do they get higher salaries or not? The market analysis, I'm not clear as to how you will put this in the algorithms or something like that. Thank you, Andrea. Good question. There's a lot to tell in this with regards to this new concept, this general coordination of the information system. we are now closest to the sky, say, as far as to the minister, but we are also making some enemies among vice ministers. And as part of the new coordination system, there is a council that we created for the specific purpose of defining work plans or projects for the medium and long term. Because what was happening to the structure, everybody, and by everybody I mean the other departments at within the ministry, they were all requiring us to collect data. They were telling us, well, let's meet to do the Palmetto survey or the agriculture survey. So I was going to use all of my time to collect information that was not part of our plans. How are you going to say no to a vice minister? If you tell him no, you will be out of the system the following day. So we needed to have, now we have a council that is made up of the 3 vice ministers, and they need to approve our plans. This is like a firewall that we have to avoid, to keep this from happening. Each vice ministry has its own analysis unit. We coordinated with those units to ask them how they want the information to be presented. And we will limit ourselves to the statistics and not to interpret data. And by that I mean to add information using secondary sources such as credit, foreign trade, macro variable from the sector. We were doing that before, but it was too much work, and there's very few of us. As you know, an analysis unit, it can be as large or as small as you want it to be, depending on the workload that your bosses give you. So we will limit ourselves to presenting the information the way they want us to present it, so that they will analyze this information. Mr. Stephen Joseph from Dominica.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask, how did you go about getting this temporary staff to become permanent? We have a situation in Dominica, and I think some of the other countries where the positions in the ministries have been frozen, and then you cannot go and create new positions, right? So, you know, I don't know how we go about doing that, right? I'm not sure what you did, or if you all had the option to create new positions in your country, because to me it's like creating a whole new unit, a data management unit, right? To deal with the market intelligence. How did you all go about doing that? What options did you have?
Thank you. 2 things. First, there were many people who had been working for many years, and they were more interested in retire rather than in continuing their work. So about 400 people left out of 5,000, and this 10%, part of this 10% was filled with new professionals. And second, the unit that I told you about is a new unit within the structure of the Ministry of Agriculture. So we needed to look for $4.5 million to begin working in this unit. And we needed to sell this idea. We needed to tell people, well, that this information was, market information was important, as the Canadian representative says, you need to work with the groups from the private and the public sector. And it's quite a skill to sell the idea of how important market information may be for the plans that are increasingly based on this type of information, on quality information. As I said before, collecting information is expensive, and collecting high-quality information is even more expensive. I don't know if we can see if other countries have been through this, have that experience, but in Ecuador, that was the option we had.
You mentioned that you have a computer system that uses algorithms to map historical price trends and sets off an alarm when those prices fall outside of what is the trend. I was wondering if that information system takes in consideration variables such as natural disaster, gluts and scarcities, quality standards, that kind of thing, and contracted market points as opposed to on-site negotiations.
En realidad,
Well, actually, it is based on the price trends within each market, even presentation-wise. We take that trend and we analyze the variation coefficient, and we introduce it as a seed. We have been testing this seed to see how many times we get an alarm signal regarding unusual prices in a market. I don't know if this is an advantage or not, but in our countries we've adopted the dollar as our currency, and this takes away part of the noise when it comes to price fluctuations, and in comparison to other countries that have inflationary trends. And that is, this is a factor that we need to take into account. Now that we're using this so-called hard currency compared to other currencies, we have a certain flexibility rather than basing ourselves on the historical behavior of that commodity and that presentation. If there's something strange about the price that is being introduced, there is a signal is triggered, and the investigator finds out what are the possible causes. If prices are within the so-called normal range, we don't have a window requesting an explanation. If no explanation is introduced, the information is not stored. And after that, we have something that is part of the process that needs to be followed with all prices, which is we have a follow-up and control unit for the reporter. Because if we identified too many mistakes from that reporter on the prices he sends behave differently than the prices in other markets for the same commodity and the same presentation. Then in a market tells me that prices are going up, and other markets tell me that prices are going down. Then we need to look for an explanation. This unit is responsible for finding out the inconsistencies at the medium and long term, and this would be weeks, to see if there's a deficiency in the training or a problem with the catalogs of commodities that have information about the commodity weight, measurements, etc. And so we try to solve the situation. We do not take the reporter out of the market. We just train him better so that he can better identify problems. and perform better. I had already told you that the software that was designed is considered a public good. So if any country needs and requests this software to Ecuador, we could make that possible, make that software available.
Es una pregunta.
I have a question for you, or some comments. Today, when we were listening to your presentation, and I would like to congratulate you for that excellent presentation, there was a topic that I can't stop thinking about. We and as part of the trade chain, we think that many actors along the chain are not interested in the information, that they are proactively when it comes to not disseminating that information because that's part of their gain, that's to their advantage. So how can we contribute to make that information available along the entire chain? And what can we do to have impartial information, unbiased information, if there are no policies from the government, from the institutions? I think that in one of today's presentations, someone said that we shouldn't have policies. But I think that any system needs to be apolitical, but all systems need to have, to follow certain policies. So, what can we do to make the system more objective? Thank you, Alfredo. The efforts made by market information systems at the hemispheric level have focused on integrating the different agents along the agri-food chain. And in many countries, we see that they are making an effort to collect price information at the producer level. And we can say that the main purpose of market information systems has been to generate benefits through transparency to the weakest sector in the chain, which is primary producers. There are other links that have no interest at all, that are not interested at all in disseminating or sharing that information. The less information that is available, the more benefits for them. And that is a paradigm that we have. This is what I'm saying is not a rule, but because much of it depends on the skills, because this is not a hard science, it's rather an art, what Fernando has said. Collecting price information cannot be considered an activity that we will discuss today and then we will carry out. No, there are many difficulties. And the leadership of market information systems, whether it is in the hands of the public or private sector, among the different stakeholders, associations, federations, will increase their credibility and their transparency. And this will enable the system to approach the different stakeholders. I've been lucky enough to deal with my colleagues at the Department of Agriculture in the United States, and I don't know if it's due to cultural factors. I don't have an answer for this, but they have been able to approach other agents along the chain, and I cannot say that we have to copy them because our situation is different. But a critical factor is objectivity, transparency. And this is obviously related to how the system is positioned. And someone can ask, well, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The hen or the egg? I think that the egg comes first. The systems need to position themselves first. As Victor said, institutionality is critical. The fact that we are participating in this workshop forces us to inform our authorities. And as part of AICA, I am also interested in informing our Director General, because our Director General works directly with the ministers. So the position in the MIS, in the business, agribusiness environment, at the country level, will enable it to establish relations with with the actors along the chain, and that way we can have a more comprehensive understanding of price behavior in the sector. Barbados.
Thank you again. Just a comment and a small question for Mr. Victor Bushelli. Yeah, I too would like to congratulate you on your presentation, very informative. In fact, I'm impressed and intrigued by the system that your organization has been able to develop. And I want to say right now that we will be having some dialogue with you, because we will want to take the offer of the software that you put on the table. It also suggests to me that the development of a quality system requires much work and prolonged, sustained effort. You've been in it since 1995, and I gather that you are still doing some work. I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but could you give us some indication of what the project actually cost?
The last part of the project, or the transition period from 1995 to, I'm not clear on what period you refer to.
Received some assistance from the World Bank. My question is, I'm trying to get a feel, as to what it actually costs to establish the system that you have, because that information would be useful for me going back home to speak to my principals about the level of investment as required in order to establish a quality MIS system.
Well, I don't have the numbers at the top of my head, but Ecuador has 240,000 square kilometers. That's about 2.4 million hectares, 1.2 million agricultural land. For that, I'm using 80 people. That would be 4 million. So if we divide 1.2 million hectares, and this is costing me 4.5 million. So our indicator will be about $4 per hectare for my information system in Ecuador per year. That could be, this is a very quick indicator of what would be the cost of implementing an information system. Well, we will divide this Q&A period into two. We will now be following Fanny to have our lunch. Lunch is on us. You can pay in dollars, but you will give you the change in colones. And we need to be back in this room at 2 p.m. for our next session of questions and answers. And I would like for those of you to have questions to hold on to those questions, and we will make those questions in the afternoon. You can leave your property here. We will lock this room, so you don't have to take anything to the cafeteria. Thank you.